Hello, my name is Joanne Seward, and I'm the Technical Services Librarian at the Oak Creek Public Library. Thank you for viewing this fourth and final video in the Microsoft Office series. Today's topic is Microsoft Publisher. Publisher lets users create vivid, professional-looking publications without investing lots of money and time in a complicated desktop publishing application. With the Microsoft Publisher program, you can create more graphical publications, as well as layout-intensive publications required for professional-looking business and marketing communications. You can make simple things like greeting cards and labels, or more complex projects like yearbooks, catalogs, and professional email newsletters. Microsoft Publisher allows for more flexibility in creating publications that are less text-heavy and more visually dynamic. So the objectives, and this is what we're going to focus on specifically in today's video. We're going to learn basic navigation skills to effectively use the Microsoft Publisher program. We're going to create, edit, and format a basic flyer. We're going to work with templates to create and edit a business card. And then lastly, we'll review how to save, print, and open various presentations. The first thing that we need to do is open the Microsoft Publisher program. One way that you can access it is down at the Start menu at the very bottom left-hand corner of the screen. So I'm going to click once on Start, and then go up and click on the All Apps symbol. This will show you all of the programs or apps that are installed on this computer. So I'm going to scroll down to the P's until I find Publisher. And we're using 2016, but 2013, 2019, even 2011, they're all fairly similar to this. So I'm just going to click on Publisher 2016 once to open the publication, or to open Publisher. So just like with the other Microsoft Office products, we get what's called the startup screen right here. Just as a reminder, for the startup screen, you can open other publications. So over here on the left-hand side, so anything that you've worked on previously and saved to your computer or to a flash drive, you can open from here. You can use online templates, so the search for online templates, and then there's templates right here as well that you can use. So things that have been pre-created by people that you can then tweak to your own purposes. And then lastly, you can create blank presentations. So they have various different size paper that you can do for Publisher. So for today, we're just going to start with a very basic, the blank 8.5 by 11. So if you click on that once, it'll open, and it takes us to the editing window. So once again, as a review, the ribbon is still this entire section up here at the very top. We still have the tabs. So it starts with File, Home, Insert, Page Design, Mailings, Review, and View is the last one in here. Remember that inside of the tabs, we have groups. So you can see the group name is at the very bottom of the ribbon right here. So the very first group in Home is Clipboard. So it has Cut, Copy, Paste, and Format Painter. The next group is Font. The next group is Paragraph, Styles, and so on. So this is good to know just because Microsoft is trying to group similar things together, aka anything that you want to do with font is going to be in the font group. Anything with the paragraph, you know, the spacing, bullets, numbers are going to be in the paragraph group, and so on. So some new pieces are this ruler. So at the very top, we have this ruler right here. So that gives us an idea of where we are on the piece of paper. You can see as I move my mouse, you can even see a little line moving along. Okay, so that's giving you an idea of where you are on this piece of paper. So there's the horizontal guide ruler, and then there's this vertical guide ruler. And we'll talk about guides in just a little bit. On the left-hand side, we have this page preview pane, which is very similar to PowerPoint and how it has the little miniatures of the slides. It's the same concept. So it's going to show you however many pages that you have over here as miniatures. So right now ours is blank, and so page 1 is blank. All right, and then at the bottom, we have the status bar, so letting us know how many pages we have and etc. And then over on the right-hand side is our zoom. So right now it's at 45% because it's trying to show us this entire piece of paper within the window. If we zoom in and click on the plus sign, it makes it bigger. okay? But now we can't see the edges anymore. So I'm just gonna zoom it back out. There we go, okay? And I just clicked on the minus sign in order to zoom out. All right, so let's talk about the ruler guides. So there are many different types of layout guides in Publisher that help maintain the alignment of objects, so knowing where things are going to end up on your piece of paper. So the pictures, your text boxes, tables, etc. One of the easiest to use is actually the ruler guide. So one of the ways that we can get that is by going to the Page Design tab up here. So if I click on Page Design, you can see there is the layout group. In here we have guides. If I click on guides, you can see it already has some built-in ruler guides that I can choose from. So if I know that I want to have 2 columns and then I can have spaces for titles up at the top, I could use this one. If I want 3 columns and space for the heading or the title at the top, I could choose that one, etc. So they have some that are already preset that you can choose to if you so desire. But in this case, I want to add kind of specific ones so that I know that I want a guideline, which is just kind of an imaginary line is the best way to think of it. So it's not going to actually print on the piece of paper. It's just going to show up there. So I'm going to choose ruler guides from the menu right here. And it allows us to type in where we want our guideline to be. So for this very first one, let's do 2. So as in it's going to be 2 inches and it's horizontal right here, okay? If I wanted one that was vertical, I could click on the vertical tab and do the same exact thing. So I typed in 2 for 2 inches and I'm going to click on set, and you can see it puts it right in this box right here. You can do additional ones if you want at this time. So you could type in another one and click on set, and type in another one and click on set, and so on. And you can have multiples in here. That's totally up to you and what you are looking for. So I'm going to click OK. Notice this green line just appeared right here that wasn't there before. The little blue line that's going around the edges is actually the margin guideline. So that's what it's giving you a kind of guide for right now. This green line is considered the ruler guide, okay? So that's how I know that right here is 2 inches. And you can see, if I put my mouse on it, you can see over here that it has the 2 right at the line right there, okay? All right, so if I need to add or delete a ruler guide, so we just added one this way, but you can also add one by using click, hold, and drag on the actual ruler itself. So I'm going to go over to this left hand, the vertical guide, and you can see my cursor has changed into a line with arrows pointing right and left. If I click, hold, and drag, notice how this green line all of a sudden appears and is moving with me. And let's say I want it over here, boom. As soon as you let go, it stays there. So once again, these little dashed lines, the green, blue, or sometimes you'll see pink. Pink lets you know that something is centered either horizontally or vertically. Those lines will never show up when you go to print it. So it's just, like I said, kind of an imaginary line to let you know where you are putting things on the piece of paper. So if I need to delete something, so if I need to delete one of these ruler guides, like this one that I just threw in there, very carefully, you have to make sure your mouse is right on top of the line. I'm going to right click and then I can choose delete guide. And now you can see that green line is gone. Okay. All right. So I'm going to keep the 2-inch line though, because I do want that one for the flyer that we're about to create. So with flyers, typically the first thing that you want to start out with is creating a title. And so that's why I have this kind of 2-inch space up here is where I want my title to be. So the title is supposed to draw attention to the person who's looking at the flyer. Why are they looking at this flyer? So we're going to go to the Insert tab, and for titles, typically you're going to use word art. So in the text group right here, we have word art. So if I click on word art, you can see we have plain word art styles and we have word art transform styles. For now, I wouldn't mess around with these too much. I would stick with the plain word art styles. So I'm just going to choose one of these. It doesn't matter, whichever one kind of, you know, floats your boat at the moment. So let's say I want to choose this one. So if I click on here, this box will pop up and I can type in the title that I want AK to be in the actual word art. So you don't want to click in here because it's already selected, it's already highlighted. So if I start typing, it's just going to delete it. If I click in here, I have to use the backspace key to delete the words, your text here. So I'm just going to start typing right away without clicking on anything. So I'm going to type in garage sale and notice the text disappeared. Okay. So once you have the text in here, the way that you want it, click OK. And you can see it pops it right in the very center of our piece of paper. Whenever you insert something in Publisher, so if it's a picture, if it's a table, a chart, a word art, et cetera, it will always go to the center of the piece of paper, which is kind of nice because that way you don't have to really worry about where your cursor is and all that other kind of stuff like you have to worry about with Word. And Excel and PowerPoint. So it's kind of nice to know that it's just going to go in the center and then you can move it wherever you want to move it. So the next thing we're going to do is talk about how to move and resize this object, specifically the word art. So in order to move it, we go onto the object itself and you can see your cursor should change into this 4-arrow move cursor. So that's letting you know that if you click, hold, and drag, you can move it wherever you like. So I'm going to move it up to the very top left-hand corner. Notice how when I hit these guidelines, they turn a darker color. So that's letting you know that you're right on the edge of those guidelines. So in this case, I want to be right at the top of the top margin line and then that left-hand side margin line. So you can see both of them are kind of brighter blue. So I'm right against the edge, which is exactly where I want to be. So I'm going to let go. And you can see it's moved up here and now it's gone from down here, okay? So to adjust the size of this, we're gonna use this corner move handle. So these little white squares or circles are sometimes, depends on what it is, are considered the corner move handles. So that's how I can resize, one way that I can resize the object. You can also change the size in the size group right here. So if you know that you want it to be, 1 inch high and the width to be 4 inches, then you can change it in here if you want it as well. So I'm going to just use the corner move handle though. So once I put my cursor on it, it changes into that arrow that's kind of diagonal. So if I click and hold down, I'm going to drag it. In this case, I want it to fill up that entire space up to the 2-inch line. So all the way over to the right, and then all the way to that ruler guideline that we put down at 2 inches. So you can see all of my different guidelines are highlighted kind of darker green or darker blue. So that's how I know that I'm in the correct place that I want to be. So once I let go, there we go, it is resized, okay? All right. So now we're going to format our word art so that we can make it a little bit more customized to what we want it to be, because maybe we don't like this shade of blue that the letters are, or etc. So the first thing we're going to do is do the shape fill. So the shape fill is actually the inside color of these letters. So right now they're kind of white and blue. So we're going to change the inside color. So I'm going to click on shape fill and I get all of these different color choices. I will point out to you that if there's a color in here that you don't see, like for example, there's no pink. Where's pink? There's no pink in here. You might have to go to this more fill colors. So I'm going to click on more fill colors. They give you a couple different ways that you can actually choose your color. So you can choose it using the standard tab, the custom tab, or the Pantone tab. Typically I just like standard, is pretty much straightforward. So let's say I wanted the pink. So here is a pink. There we go. And you can see this is what the current color is, and this is what the new color is going to be. So if I click on OK, now you can see the inside color has changed to pink. Okay. Now we're going to change the shape outline color. So that's the outline of these letters. So the outside color of kind of these bubble letters. So underneath shape fill, I'm going to click on shape outline. In this case, I'm going to choose black. All right, so if you don't see a very noticeable difference, that might be because the line is actually pretty skinny, that it is that outside shape, okay? So what you can do is go to the shape outline again, and under weight, you want to change the width. And you can see that it makes quite a bit of difference. If I go all the way to 6 points, then that's quite a bit thicker. So I'm just going to go kind of somewhere in the middle. Let's do 3 instead. So now you can clearly see, at least hopefully clearly, that the outside color is now black. Okay? It was black before, but it was just that the line was so skinny that you couldn't really see it. All right. Okay, so the last thing that we're going to do with this one for right now is we're going to change the shape of it slightly. So if I go to change shape, there's the follow path section. We're going to ignore that for now. And then there's warp. Warp will actually tweak the actual word art title, whatever text that you entered to that kind of path is basically the best way to explain it. So I'm going to choose, let's do kind of a basic one, like one of the waves. Okay, so I'm going to do double wave 2. So you can see now how it's kind of a little wavy. Okay, if you don't like it, you can always go back to change shape and you could choose a different one. Let's say I wanted this deflate. So it's skinnier in the middle and larger on the outsides. Okay, so you can choose whatever shape that you desire. All right. So now that we have our title of our flyer set, the next thing that we have to do is insert a text box. Or one of the, not we have to do, but one of the things that we can do is insert a text box. Anytime that you need to insert text onto your piece of paper, it's not like Word. I can't just click on here and start typing. So yeah, see, you can only type into a text box table and certain shapes, okay? So because Publisher, as I mentioned at the very beginning, is more for things that are visually dynamic and less text heavy, aka it's not really meant for text. So if you want text, you need to insert a text box. So I'm going to go to the Insert tab again, and then in the text group where we did word art before, we're going to do Draw Text Box. So I'm going to click once on there. Nothing happens, but if I move my cursor down, notice how my cursor has changed into this plus sign. Basically what we need to do is draw our actual text box, okay? So I am going to start right here, right at the kind of margin line and that ruler guideline right underneath the word art. So I'm going to click, hold, and drag it over to the right so that it hits the margin line over on the right hand side and down a little bit. Okay, I'm going to do it like right there, for example, and then let go. All right, so now you can see there's a flashing cursor right there. So that flashing cursor lets you know that if you started typing, that's where it's going to go, is right there. Okay. But before we start typing, notice how tiny that flashing cursor is. It's super, super tiny. If you look at a font group right here, you can see that the font right now is 10. For a flyer, that is too tiny, super tiny. Unless you want really fine print on your flyer, typically you don't want size 10, okay? So we're gonna change it to size 28 instead. All right. Now you can actually see the cursor a little bit better. So we're going to type in the text of our flyer. So that's kind of the when, where, what, why, you know, all of that kind of stuff. So give me a moment to type in all of that information. And I'm just pressing enter in between the lines, because I want that extra space in there. Okay. So now what I'm going to do is give lots of extra space because I want to put a picture in between the text. So I want to have extra space so that I can actually put a picture in there. So in this case, I'm going to press enter 6 times just to give myself plenty of extra space. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All right, so you can see my flashing cursor now is all the way down here. So all of this empty space, just imagine, is where a picture is going to be, okay? So I'm gonna type in the rest of my text. Okay, so I typed in notable items and I pressed enter. Notice how the corner move handles have turned red. And then there's a little dot, dot, dot right here. That is a visual cue to let you know that there is additional text in this text box that you are not seeing. So imagine your text box is like a window, okay? You can fill up the window only so much, and then there's going to be no more space to see something. After that, it goes underneath your windowsill ledge, and then you can't see it anymore if you're on the other side of it, okay? So what we need to do in this case is you can either make the text itself smaller, or you can make your text box bigger. So in this case, there's all this empty space down here. So I'm going to use this move handle right in the middle and just drag it down all the way to the bottom margin line. So now I have plenty of extra space. And notice my white corner move handles have changed back to white, and then you can see your flashing cursor again. So I'm going to finish typing in the rest of my text. All right, and there is all of the text. So now we're going to talk about how to format this text box itself. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to start with selecting when. So in this case, we're just going to format the text itself. So in order to format text that you've already selected, you have to use either click, hold, and drag or some other way to select the text. So in this case, I want to make when bold. So I'm going to do click, hold, and drag. And then in the Home tab, I'm going to select the B in the font group for bold, okay? And I'm going to do the exact same thing to where, right here, and this notable items, because these are kind of the headings that I want to have stand out a little bit more, okay? All right, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the keyboard shortcut Control and A on my keyboard. So if I hold on Control and tap the letter A and then let go, you can see it selected all of my text inside of the text box. So what I'm going to do now is I want to align this so that it's all centered. So especially like notable items, I want more in the center. I don't want it over here on the left-hand side and kind of, you know, skewed weird. So in the paragraph group, what we're going to do is we're going to go to the contextual tab here, the format tab, and in the alignment group, we're going to choose this align center. The reason we're doing this one is this will align it center horizontally and vertically in your text box. If we just did centered right here in the paragraph group, it's only going to center it horizontally, not vertically, okay? So I'm going to go back and I'm going to choose the align center. Okay, and there's still empty space in here because we put those, we did enter in between. So that still counts as something, even though technically there's nothing in there. But you can see all the rest of the text has been centered. All right, this is when you look at it and are like, it kind of bothers me that 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. is down here. So 10 a.m. is on this line and 7 p.m. is down on that line. So one way that we can fix that is clicking before the 10 of the 10 a.m., so clicking before the 1. And then if I press enter, it will force it to move down to the next line. Check it out. There we go. And I can see there's a little error. I didn't give another space between 7. Fix that. There we go. All right, so now that all of that text is looking good, okay? So the last thing that we're going to do is we're going to create an outline/fill for this actual text box. So we're going to go to the Drawing Tools Format Contextual tab. And in the Shape Styles group right here, we have these different color boxes, and these are the outlines. So we have the up arrow, the down arrow, and we have the more arrow. I'm going to click on more just so they can see all the different choices that I have in here, okay? So I'm going to choose whichever one that I like in here. And you don't have to do this. This is totally something that is just up to you. So let's say I like this one. So I'm going to click on there, and then that's going to be applied to my text box. So if I click off. All right. So now what we need to do is actually insert a picture. That's what's missing from this flyer. Here I am talking about how publishers thinks that it's not as text heavy, and all we have on here right now is text. So we need to fix that. So I'm going to go to the Insert tab up here at the top left-hand corner, and we're going to do an online picture. So in the Illustrations group, we're going to choose online pictures. Remember, plain old pictures are things that you have saved to your computer or to a flash drive. Online computer or online pictures is searching for pictures on websites. So I'm going to click on online pictures, and remember it's searching Bing because that's partnered with its Microsoft Office product. So I'm going to click in the search Bing box, and I'm going to type in garage sale and press enter and see what we get. And just as a reminder, as a review, remember the Creative Commons license, this little yellow bar right here, are ones that you can use. So these pictures have been tagged with Creative Commons license. So that's letting you know that you can use these without being sued, basically. You can do show all results, and that'll show you every picture that is, has the tag garage sale. But some of those inevitably are ones that you technically don't have the right to actually use. So just keep that in mind, okay? All right, so I'm gonna scroll down a little bit and find one that I like. Let's keep going. Let's say I like this one. Ooh, nope. I like this one right here. We're gonna choose this one right here. So I'm gonna click on the picture, and you can see it puts a little check mark in there. And then I'm gonna click on insert. And notice, once again, I inserted something and it goes right in the very center of my actual piece of paper, okay? And you can see it moved all of my text down here, and I can't see all the rest of my text. Don't worry about that right now. We're gonna change it in just a second. So we're gonna format our picture so that it can actually fit in that space that we created by pressing enter in the text box. So the first thing that we need to do is actually change the size of this because it's a little bit too big. So I'm going to use the corner move handle and resize it a little bit. So I'm going to click, hold, and drag. And typically you want to use the corners whenever you're resizing something because it will stretch out the picture or shrink it proportionately. Like, whereas if I use just this left-hand side middle, if I go over to the left, notice it just shrunk it down and now it's looking kind of stretched out and a little bit weird. So you don't want to do that pretty often. You usually want to use the corner move handles. So I'm going to use the corner and I'm going to click, hold, and drag and move it up and kind of towards the middle until it's a bit smaller, and then let go. All right, so there it is. And right now it's in the wrong space. I'm going to click, hold, and drag to move it down a bit. Oh, that's a little bit too far down. Move it up a little bit more, up a little bit more. Nope, so I'm gonna have to make it a little bit smaller, just a little bit. There we go, okay? And notice how if I drag it along, all of a sudden this pink line pops up. That's letting me know that it's centered. In this case, centered would make this whole thing get kind of messed up, so I don't wanna do that. So we're just gonna use it right there. Okay, and notice how I dragged it and now there's a pink line for vertical, okay? The vertical is handy in this case because we are trying to center it vertically instead of horizontally. So if I let go, there we go. Now it's centered in the middle vertically on this piece of paper, okay? So this is kind of the thing with Publisher that you just kind of get used to after a while, is tweaking things, because you'll decide, oh, maybe the title is too big and you want to make it a little bit smaller. Well, now that this is smaller, now the text box is too big and you need to make that smaller. And now the picture is in the wrong place and you need to move that, and so on and so forth. So it's really kind of a game of just tweaking things constantly. So that's just kind of the nature of the thing when you are talking about creating various publications, especially flyers in particular, okay? All right. So the next thing we're going to do is talk about saving. So this is a review if you watched, the Microsoft Word, Excel, or PowerPoint videos. So in order to save this, in this case, we're going to save it to our flash drive. So I'm going to click on File at the top left corner. And remember, we have Save versus Save As. Save As is if you're saving something for the first time, or if you need to save something to a different location, like for example, you save it to a flash drive and now you need to save it to your computer as well, etc. Okay, so I'm going to click on Save As. I'm going to choose Browse in here. And then this will pop up where all the different places that I can save something to. So the things that are on my computer, like the Documents folder, or the Downloads folder, or the Pictures folder, etc. But in this case, I want to save it to my flash drive. So my flash drive is right here, the Centon USB. Centon is just the brand name of the flash drive. Most of the time you might just see removable drive or removable disk, device with removable storage, something of that nature. So I'm going to click once on the folder that I want to save it to, in this case, the flash drive. The next thing that you want to keep in mind with saving is the name of it. So right now the file name is publication 1, which is not very descriptive. So you might want to actually change the name of it. So I just clicked on it in order to highlight it. And then I can type in what I want to change it to. So let's say garage sale flyer. That makes sense, right? Okay. So now that I have it say in the location that I want it to be and with the name that I want it to be, now I can click on save. All right, so this is now saved to my flash drive, okay? Just as a reminder, make sure that you save fairly regularly. You don't want to spend, 2 hours working on something and then the power goes out and your computer turns off and for some reason it doesn't save it at all. Blech. You don't want to do that kind of stuff. So you want to get in the habit of saving it every, 10, 15 minutes, or if you worked on something for a particular frame of time and you want to make sure that you don't lose it, those are the times that you want to kind of save things periodically. Okay. All right, so that was our flyer. So the next thing that we're going to do is we want to create a new publication, and we're going to actually be doing our business card. So I'm going to go to the File tab up here at the top left-hand corner and click on New. And in the built-in section is where we're going to be looking. So you can search for online templates in here. So I could click in here and I could type in business card or cookbook or thank you card or labels or etc. And it will show you various things from the Microsoft Office website. But I think a lot of people miss this built-in section. The nice thing about built-in is you don't have to have an internet connection in order to access them. So these are things that are just saved as part of the program. And there are actually a ton of different categories. So we had advertisements, award certificates, banners, brochures, there's the business cards, there's calendars, greeting cards, there's flyers, labels. So there are just tons of different, there's resumes even. So there's just tons of different categories of templates that are already in here in the built-in section. So I'm going to choose business cards. Okay. And it's going to show me a variety of different business cards that I can choose from. So in this case, we're just going to choose one. Let's say I like this accessory bar down here. So I'm going to click on accessory bar. Okay. And you can see it gives you a preview over here on the right-hand side of what it's going to look like. So before we do create to select this one, we can do additional kind of customization things in here, including customizing the color or the font scheme. So let's say that we are not digging all of the blue right now, which would never be me because I love blue. But I'm going to click on underneath color scheme. I'm going to click on the down arrow, and there are all these different choices for color schemes that you can choose. Okay, see them all in here. So basically you just want to choose whatever one that you like. Let's say we're going to do purple instead. Okay. And notice it's kind of cool that on the left-hand side, all of the previews of the other types of business cards actually display over here. So you can actually kind of see what the various ones are going to look like. Okay. So I'm going to now click on create, and it will open up my business card. Notice how it is very big on the screen right here. This is when looking at the ruler is helpful because it really does look like a piece of paper that's in landscape rather than just a small business card. But if I look at the ruler, notice it only goes to 3.5 on the top right here, and then it only goes to 2 on the left. So it's only 3.5 by 2 inches. So that's letting you know. You can also see down here at the bottom right-hand corner that it's showing us the zoom level is 253%. So it's very zoomed in so that we can see it. Okay. So real quick, we're going to talk about some different types of templates, because you'll notice the more that you use templates, not all templates are created equally. Basically what that means is various people can create templates however they want to create them. So you might have some templates that are very easy to manipulate and change things on, and you might have some templates where it's almost impossible to change things. that that whoever created it has put in there already. So to give you an example, one kind of template you might see is something called template with repeated areas. So I'm going to go to this Word document right here. And this is a label template that I just found online. So what I'm going to do is, to give you an idea, if I click right here where it says patron and I use Backspace, and I'm going to type in my name. Let's try it again. Okay, so notice how it has my name right here. If I click on the street address, notice how every single one of these labels has now changed. And if I type in the street address, let's do the library's address, South 6th Street, okay? And then if I go down to the city, state, zip, now see every single street address has changed. There you go, okay? So there really was no visual cue beforehand to give you an idea that it was gonna do this. So sometimes labels are created this way where every single one has repeated areas, and so you'll get the same on every single one, and some of them aren't. It's just the way that, like I said, the way that people created it. It just depends on who created it and how they created it, okay? So so this one is an example of a template with repeated areas. So for templates that have fields, that would be these little brackets right here. So notice there's a bracket around first name, a bracket around the surname, the job title, the job position, company name, and so on. So that's letting you know that these are fields. What's nice about fields is that you can click in them and you can click anywhere in here, and you can be able to change all of the text. It becomes all selected. So if I click once on first name, notice this entire thing now gets highlighted. So I can type in my first name. If I could spell it correctly. There we go. Okay, let's move down. Let's do the job title. So if I click on job title, notice that anything within the bracket, including the bracket itself, is going to be selected so that I can very easily just type in whatever I want to type in there. So technical services librarian. There we go. And so on and so forth. You'll see these fields a lot when it comes to resumes in particular, is what I've noticed. Because that way you don't have to delete all of this text. But sometimes you might see templates without fields. And a great example of this is the business card that we had just opened before. So if I go back to publisher and our business card, notice how none of these have brackets around them. Okay, there's no text that has brackets around it. What that means is you have to click in here and you actually have to manually delete any of this text. So you can use Backspace and delete it. So you can do click, hold, and drag, and then delete it, etc. But you actually have to manually delete the text itself. It's not just you can't just click in here and have it all highlighted and then be able to type in it, okay? So I just wanted to make you aware that templates can really just be completely different things, once again, depending on who actually created them, okay? So whereas templates seem like they're really handy and useful, sometimes they can be more pain than they're actually worth. So, all right. But with that being said, with that little cautionary little tip about templates, we are going to go ahead and edit our business card template. So the first thing that we're going to do is start out with this business name. So we're going to start out by changing the name. So we can do click, hold, and drag to select all of this. We can do Control A, whatever you want to do in order to select all of the text. So now that it's all highlighted, I can actually type in the business name. So let's do, our business card is going to be for the Oak Creek Public Library. There we go. Okay. All right, the next thing we're going to do is change our name. So that's where it says Windows user right now. It took what the name of this actual laptop is called. So I'm going to do click, hold, and drag to select this. Or once again, I could have done Control A, etc. It doesn't matter. And I'm going to type in my name. There we go. And now we need to do our title. So what's our title? Our actual job title. In this case, we're going to do avid reader. That's what we are. All right. So next we're going to move over here and change the primary business address. So I'm going to click in here. I don't need any of this text at all. So the easiest way is doing Control A to select all of it. And then I can type in what text I want in there. So I'm going to type in the address for the library. There we go. All right, so now with this phone, fax, and email, in this case, I want the word phone, and I want the word email in here, but I don't want any of this other text. So in this case, I have to do click, hold, and drag in order to select the pieces that I don't want. So I'm going to start with the phone number, this 555-5555, and I'm going to type in the number for the library. There we go. I don't want this fax line at all, so I'm going to select the fax line right here and use Backspace, and that's gone. And now I need to change the email address. So I'm going to select the email address using click, hold, and drag so that I just select that, but not the word email, because I want to keep that. All right, and I'm going to type in the email address. Oop, it got unselected. Here we go. I want to caution you real quick that sometimes when you're using a template in particular, if you type something wrong and you use Backspace, just be very careful. I just pressed Backspace and notice rather than getting rid of the G at the very end where I typed in the .org, it actually highlighted the entire text in my text box. So if I wasn't paying attention, if I hit Backspace again, it's all gone. I don't know why certain templates are created this way, and I've noticed this with a couple of text boxes on different templates. Sometimes it does it and sometimes it doesn't. So in order to get it back, you have to do the undo arrow. And there we go, there we can bring it back, okay? So just be careful when you're using Backspace, especially when you're using templates is what I've noticed. You might have to click, like let's say I didn't need the G. Instead of using Backspace to delete this, I might click before it and use delete instead, and then it'll get rid of it, okay? So you kind of have to manipulate things a little bit more sometimes with the text boxes, okay? I just wanted to point that out to you. All right, the next thing we're gonna do is we need to have an image replace this organization. This is kind of just a generic image right here, okay? So I'm gonna click on this little picture of a pyramid to select this. And you can see the entire thing. There's a box around the entire thing. And I'm going to use Backspace on the keyboard, and it deletes that image. So we need to put an image right here. And in this case, I have it saved to my flash drive. So I'm going to go to the Insert tab, and I'm going to choose Pictures, because that's where it's saved to my actual computer, or in this case, the flash drive. And I need to go to the folder where it's actually saved to. If it's your computer, it's probably in the Pictures folder. In this case, as I mentioned, it's in my flash drive that's sent in USB. And here we go, the Oak Creek Library logo, sorry. So if I click on there and click on Insert, you can see it puts it right in the center of our publication and then kind of squishes the text around the edges. So we're going to change the size of this so that it actually fits in there. We can use these corner move handles, or you can change it using the size group up here in this Picture Tools format contextual tab. So I'm going to do the size in here just so that you guys can have an example of what that looks like. So in this case, I just know from previous experience that I want this to be 0.7. So I'm just going to use the down arrows. And notice it will get smaller both horizontally and vertically as you go. So I'm going to do all the way down to 0.7. There we go. So this is, I know, like I said, the size that I want. So I'm going to click, hold, and drag and move it down to that bottom left corner. Notice those little pink lines pop up. In this case, the pink lines, for some reason, they're not actually where it's centered. This is actually kind of imagined more like your margin lines. So if I let go, there it is down there at the bottom left-hand corner. And if you click off to the side, there is my finished business card. And you can tweak things once again as much as you like. So let's say you didn't really want it right here. You wanted it farther over so it didn't look kind of, skewed all to the one side, okay? And maybe you wanted this text box to be moved over and you use the edges and drag it over, okay? Same thing with this avid reader. If I wanna, oops, don't wanna do that. If I want to use the edges and drag it over so that it's underneath my name, there we go. So there's lots of different tweaking that you can do to make this however you want to make it, okay? Like I said, publications, that's a lot of what this is just tweaking things. Okay, so let's talk about printing real quick. Typically with Publisher, I've noticed that printing is really, it already is the way that you need it to be most of the time. Most of the time you don't really want to mess with the printer settings too much, to be honest. So you'll see when I mean it in just a second. I'm going to go to the File tab to print and then click on Print. And it's going to give you a preview of what it's going to look like over here on the right-hand side. So because it's a business card template, it knows that it needs to repeat this, what we created, so that there's multiples on one piece of paper. So that's why it's doing that. Normally, it wouldn't just automatically give you multiples on one piece of paper. So that's what I mean about how Publisher kind of already knows what you need for the most part, okay? You can change all of the settings, so you can do multiple copies. So if you have like 6 sheets of paper that you want to have the same thing on, then you can use the up arrow and change it to 6. There we go. You can change the printer. So if you need to, let's say you're printing at work and you have multiple different printers to choose from, you can choose it in here. And then there's the settings. A lot of these options we've already seen before in Word and Word, PowerPoint, and Excel. So I'm not going to go back over every single one of them. And like I said, for the most part, these options are already pretty much set the way that you need them to be set, depending on the template that you chose or the size paper, etc. Okay. All right, so the very last thing that we're going to talk about is opening a file. So so in this case, opening a publication that we already had worked on previously. So I'm going to close out of this. In this case, I don't feel like saving it, so now I'm going to choose don't save, but normally you probably would want to do save. I'm going to close out of this, the Word documents that I have open. All right, so back to where we started. So one way that we can go and access again, in this case, we know that it's a publisher file that we want to open. So we're going to go back down to the start menu and go to all apps again and scroll down until we get to publisher to reopen it. All right, we're going to pretend it's not here. So we're going to click if it's not listed under the recent, you're going to go to this open other publications, and then you're going to go to browse. And this is when you need to remember, where did I save it to? And you're like, oh yeah, the garage sale flyer. That's right, I saved it to my flash drive. So you're going to click on the flash drive and then you're going to find it in there, okay? So you just need to remember what folder you actually saved your publication to is really the key thing in here. So I'm going to select it and then click on open. And there it is. And then I can tweak it some more and save it again or print it, or whatever else I need to do at this point. So I hope you learned a couple additional tips that you might not have known before about Publisher. Please feel free, if you have any questions, to email us at library@oakcreekwi.org. I hope you enjoyed this video and the series of videos for the Microsoft Office for Beginners. Have a good day.